Level 2, let's do this thing. This is SportsRage. I am Gabirel Morency. Steve Merrill kicking it with us for a couple of more moments. And Steve's a big numbers guy, and this is an incredible number as far as the Michigan Wolverines are concerned. The Michigan Wolverines are 31-0 when Blake Corum scores a touchdown in the football game, which is an incredible stat. He's found the end zone in 25 in the last 26 football games. His only scoreless game coming when he played hurt a few snaps against Ohio State in 2022. So 31-0. So then you sort of ask yourself, all right, is he going to score a touchdown in this game? And considering we talked about Washington's defense, I would probably say yes. Considering he scored a touchdown in 25 of his last 26 football games, I would probably say yes to that. So I just find it interesting, Steve. He's minus 400 to score a touchdown. But Michigan are like minus 190, minus 200 on the money line. Right? So you're a big difference here. But if he scores a touchdown, it's almost a guaranteed win at 31-0. That's a nice sample size right there. So what I just do all the time is I just play Michigan to win, Blake Corum to score a touchdown, same game parlay, and I've been doing it every damn game, like whenever the point spread is reasonable.
Agreed. Good call.
Yeah, that's the first thing that jumped out to me was the same game parlay, right? Because they're almost, 95% correlated. Well, 100% correlated, I guess, at 31-0.
It was plus 140 in the Rose Bowl. Michigan to win, Corum to score a touchdown was plus 140.
What's that now? Michigan money line with Corum now. What is
minus
it?
120.
Even? Know what? I would consider that value, like value personified. I thought that line could be like $1.50, $1.60. 120 is good.
I'll do it
Very
right
good.
now again. But yeah, I did it earlier in the day, and it was minus 120.
If he got a touchdown 25 out of 26 games, he's going to get all the touches. Washington can't stop the run like they did against Texas. Michigan money line with Corum touchdown. It's a pretty good correlation, I would think. I think
it's
that's
minus
fair.
125.
That's
Shout
fair.
out to everyone joining us on Sirius XM, Channel 159 SportsGrid Radio Networks. Blake Corum to score a touchdown and Michigan to win, minus 125. This is where, though, I would add this. And Roman Dunze here for the Washington Huskies to score a touchdown. So then you got Michigan to win, Corum to score a touchdown, Roman Dunze to score a touchdown, plus 300. Now you're talking a nice little payday. But any closing thoughts, Steve, before we get to the National Football League as far as the national championship game is concerned? You like Michigan. You want to take the over, but you're worried that the game slows down a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I like the overs in these championship games, but I also like Michigan. I do think Michigan under makes a little bit of sense. But if you like Washington, I definitely like the over. I mean, the Huskies are not going to win, in my opinion, a low-scoring defensive battle. That's just not their style. They're going to need some points, but I think the Michigan defense will be the difference in this game.
I think it's going to get there. Paul Bovey was with us earlier in the week, and he's betting the first half under. But he agreed that the game could go over the number, but he thinks it's going to be a little bit of a feeling out process early, a little bit of nerves. And one thing I'll notice that I did notice being there, and you saw it on TV, but they're not professional athletes. Like we are talking about like 17 and 18, 19, you know what I mean? They are kids. So you could tell, man, both teams were effing nervous, bro, to start that Rose Bowl. Like, I could see the kids on the sideline. Like, when there was the flyover and stuff, like, you know what I mean? Some of these kids looked like they were going to throw up. And there's 27 million people, Steve, watched that Rose Bowl. It peaked at 32 million, right? So there could be a little bit of nerves, and that's the big question. Michigan had been bad at the start of every one of these damn playoff games that they've been in. They were bad early against Georgia. They were bad early against TCU. And they were effing sloppy, bro, against Alabama last week.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I mean, they fumbled the punt. They threw the interception. It was out of bounds. It was like they were destined to fall behind and spot Alabama a lead. I'm curious to see which team handles the pressure better early in this football game.
I think,
yeah, Gabe, I mean, that's an excellent point. That interception, Cam, I mean, that turns that game. Yeah. The missed extra points should have cost them the game.
Yeah.
But I'll say this real quick, guys.
Right?
Exactly, yeah, but you could also make a case that they were nervous because they hadn't led in either one of the games before that. You know, they'd underperformed in the playoffs. Now that they have a win, an emotional overtime win, maybe that takes the pressure off at the start of this game. I don't know. There's two ways to look at it.
Well,
Another
the way
thing,
I think they got it out of their system.
Run the ball.
Right.
Because you saw on that interception with Alabama, as his foot's not out of bounds, that's a pick. What does Michigan do to calm the nerves? Simply run your plays. You have a huge advantage against Washington's D line with Blake Corum, and your offensive line, despite missing one of the best linemen in the country, is still epic. So you run, you loosen up a little bit, then you'll set up the pass. You know what I mean? They can come in there. That'll cool the nerves down. I think they've learned from their experiences too. Listen, we're not going to come out here gunslinging. We have advantages in many key areas in this game. Let's just play our game. Smash mouth football. Let's turn it into a street fight. If they do, they'll probably win the football game. That's my thought.
Yeah, but as I stated, Washington are ranked 123rd out of like 133 teams in pass defense.
That's true.
And I guarantee you, the Michigan offensive coordinators their eyes are lighting up when they see some of this stuff, right? And you set them up with the run, and then you attack. Just for the record, too, for you prop players out there, and I know props aren't available in every state for college, but J.J. McCarthy right now, his passing yard prop is 195.5 yards. So I just talked about Washington gave up 267 yards a game in the air. Washington has played 14 games this year. 12 of the 14 games, quarterbacks have thrown for 197 or more yards. Just throwing something out there as far as you want to get into a same-game parlay as well with J.J. McCarthy over 195.5 passing yards. I bet you, though, by Monday, this is going to be higher because people are going to jump in and start betting these props. We're still a couple of days away. But if you want to get in on that prop, I'm telling you right now, will not be 195.5 on Monday night. Steve, what do you like in the NFL this week before we get you out of here? You got about a minute and a half.
Yeah, real quick, I just recorded my Fade the Public video for Week 18. I would say Fade the Public this week, maybe tread lightly because the lines are kind of wonky, with guys sitting, games that don't have meaning. But the most public play this week is the Detroit Lions in the NFL. Fading the public is on the Lions, which means you'd play the Vikings. Lions have nothing to play for, yet they're a 3.5-point favorite. They're going to start Goff, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him limited or sitting in the second half. So I think fading the public makes sense there. And the second most public play this week is the Buccaneers. Of course, the public fades the Panthers every week, so that's not a surprise. But keep in mind, guys, Carolina was a 3.5-point dog a month ago. They lost by only 3, and they actually covered in that game. Now they're a 4.5-point home dog because Tampa has to win once again to win the division, just like last week when they didn't. So those are the two most public plays this week, Lions and Bucs. I think you can make a case for fading both of them.
You like this, Steve? In the last 2 weeks, of NFL games, teams that need to win to get into the playoffs against teams that don't need to win to get into the playoffs are 70 and 102 against the spread.
Yeah,
so
one
in
of my
other words,
favorite
you're
angles.
hitting at like it's almost like a 70% clip for the team, the Carolinas, the Jacksonvilles, the Tennessees of the world. Carolina might be a live one, actually, where they're so bad they might just die on their sword in the last game of the year and take this game to overtime.
You're right, Gabe. Nobody likes Carolina.
Tampa ain't good enough to pull away from anybody.
I agree.
My best bet is Michael Penix Jr. over 309.5. Let's shop them out. Let's get active and let's get the best of the number here, Joe.
I believe if Michigan in this ball game can run the football, work off of play action, they can move the football, put up points. Does fall on McCarthy, but I like Michigan's chances in this ball game.
National championship set. Washington against Michigan.
Brothers in arms tonight. This is it.
This is the most excited I think I've ever been for a day of work in my entire life.
Quarterback at quarterback. We're going to lay some juice. We're going to have some dog prices, and we're going to go right in the middle.
Because I don't know what they're doing. To me, they're in a complete rebuild, Kev.
Go run. That's where overbackers on this 51.5 shot.
Right now, he's a little bit more over money, but it's hovering right around.
The winner of this game will be the division favorite.
I don't care if they win because all we care about is the money, baby, the money.
Pro Football Today. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
We spent all offseason where the NFL said, hey, just so you guys know, running backs don't matter. If we then this year give the MVP to a running back, the irony. I am disappointed that they lost to FAU. because secretly I don't really like this FAU team very much. I don't know. They're just not for me. And now they've completely legitimized the Owls.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
North Carolina, we've got new sports books operating for licenses. And, a lot of news always coming out of there. One of the fresh sports betting states.
Well, they're a little behind the ball there, so I don't know if they'll be at the starting line in North Carolina. But yeah, a really interesting mix of applicants this early on so far.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid. SportsGrid. Your 24/7 sports wagering network. Fantasy sports today.
They were saying there's no way he could not possibly do this. He won't hold out.
Pro League Soccer powered by Marca.
Scoring teams in the league. They have 80 goals so far.
College football today.
The Hawks team total in the first half is 0.5.
Pro football today.
Interesting props in this game, but I would be cautious laying this number here with the Houston Texans.
In-game live all access.
The NFC in terms of these wild cards and in terms of the playoff picture.
In-game live, prime time.
Rich, I don't know, man. This has just been one of those games that doesn't make a lick of sense.
In-game live, overtime.
You want to give you over 3-1 on a pretty good team. It's hard not to take some flyers.
Football full circle.
Well, NFL officials stink. They always will stink, and they'll always ruin the game. That's just part of what it is.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
All right, thanks to Steve Merrill for kicking with us on the program. Rob Vino, ready to step into the gauntlet next with us. We're still recovering. I can't believe we're going. The championship game's coming up. I'm literally still recovering from the Rose Bowl. That was Monday, and then sort of turned into long trip out of there, getting back here. I always get sick, man. On planes for some reason after. I used to not, but last time I went to Vegas, every time I go somewhere, I seem to get whatever virus or whatever the hell is going on at whatever place it is. So we're still recovering, but the game is coming up already on Monday. But we got NFL football tomorrow. The Baltimore Ravens. There's been so much talk about this with the Ravens resting all their players and stuff like that. And I know people don't actually like to read things. I know people don't actually, talk, but they don't actually know. They'll just say, oh, they're resting him. You know what I mean? It doesn't hurt to actually read things, guys. I'll tell you that, right? Sometimes. But they're resting 6 starters. They're not resting everybody. They have 6 starters out, and they're going to take guys out as the game goes on and stuff like that. But people talk as if they're going to start literally 22 new players tomorrow that are walking in off the street. And that's just not true. And that's the reason why the point spread is down to 3 points right now. I still think, listen, it might be an overreaction right now. The Pittsburgh Steelers are on a roll. They just need to win this football game. 3, it's not getting out of hand here. I still think Baltimore are the play, Cam, because I think that the pressure will get to Pittsburgh. I think Harbaugh is going to screw them over by sort of coaching this game wildly. And if he does this, it's a kind of a big jerk move, really. But you know what I mean? Run fake punts. What does he care?
Exactly.
You're saying, well, if it works, wow, hey, how about that? If it doesn't, it's whatever, it didn't work. Okay.
You know
what I mean?
They can do whatever the hell they want. Right? It's the Steelers. It's a rival. I don't care. You know what I think, guys? I think that total's too low. I don't care about the weather. I think Baltimore, to your point, Gabe, I think they're going to let it all hang out. We know about Huntley and that offense. They're still going to score on Pittsburgh and vice versa. Pittsburgh's going to score on them. 34.5, in my opinion. I think it might even go down. I would take the over. I would take the over in the game, and I'm looking at both dogs on a teaser. I would both take Baltimore and Indianapolis, even though I think Houston might win a squeaker, and I think Pittsburgh might win a squeaker. So I would look at the T word, Gabe, and I think the game goes over the number. Total seems too low for me, even in cold weather.
I'm on both. Normally, I like betting the unders in these games. All right. So is Steve locked up here?
No, he's just doing
All
a
right.
great version of a mime. Yeah, he wasn't.
Yeah, I didn't know if
moving,
you
dude.
needed me or not.
That was amazing. You're like that guy in
Am I
Vegas. He
crazy
didn't
or
move
not,
for
though?
5
Is not
minutes.
Rob Vinos?
Yeah,
Is not Rob Vinos supposed to be with us right now, Tommy?
Yeah, I didn't know if you had Robert yet, so I figured I'd hold on just in case.
Yeah, it's like,
okay.
yeah, you'll kick me.
well,
I'll come back.
Well,
bring him in.
two of them has to go. So
Yeah, I will go. Gotta go. It's either me or Merrill. Right?
There we go. There he is. God, he's a good-looking man. You all take care of that, Rob.
Okay, Steve.
He's my
As
favorite.
long as you're here,
fellow.
Steve. So Baltimore, Pittsburgh. What's your pick, Steve? Both the 2 games tomorrow. Quickly, and then we'll get to Vino.
Yeah, real quick. I actually did a video for the Baltimore-Pittsburgh game on Wager Talk, so it's like a 7-minute video. People can check that out on Wager Talk TV. But I lean Ravens. I think it's an over-adjustment for the reasons you mentioned, Gabe, that, yes, they're sitting the starting quarterback, but they're not sitting the whole team. And don't forget, the last time they were in this situation was back in 2019. The number 1 seed locked up, and then they lost to the Tennessee Titans in that playoff game. Even though they had 500 yards, Lamar Jackson played awful. So I think they're going to be a little cautious. And by the way, that season, they sat everyone. They were a 2-point home dog against Pittsburgh in the finale, and they won that game outright by a touchdown. And Harbaugh does not like to lose preseason games, as we all know. So I think this is a little bit of an overreaction. I think the value's at plus 4.5.
Yeah, 24 consecutive preseason games in a row.
Right.
Of course, the Ravens went on that run. It's a Harbaugh weekend, all right? Harbaugh tomorrow, Harbaugh Monday. Thanks, Steve.
See you, boys.
Later, Steve.
Take care of Rob Vino. He's a gorgeous man.
He is. Great hair.
I don't know how
Excellent
gorgeous
list.
he is. He's smart. I'll give him that. I don't know if he's gorgeous, but
Hey man, I'd rather be gorgeous and smart. That's a tough one. That's tough.
he's a handsome man. Rob Vino steps up there. Rob, good to see you, Rob. How you doing tonight?
I'm good,
Vino.
buddy. How are you doing? I heard you talking about getting sick on the way back, and looking at you on Twitter, you lost a debit card or something. I mean, you had some mishaps along the way here.
Yeah, we did. But we also had some glory along the way. It's like Michigan themselves, right? Like, you know what the bottom line is, Rob? Let's be real. I'm probably a little bit too old to be doing some of these road trips and so there's stuff's gonna happen along the way. But looking back on it, we really did enjoy ourselves. Time of our life, actually. You ever been to the Rose Bowl before?
I was for World Cup soccer, but not for
cool.
Football.
Cool.
Yeah, back in the late 90s. I think we hosted it in like 94 or something. Yeah, and there's nothing like having 40,000 Brazilians around you with 20,000 of them topless. It was pretty wild.
So you had a good time, you're saying? Yeah, you had a good time.
We had a good time. They don't drive, Gabe. They just walk and jam up every street imaginable.
Oh, they just walk.
To get into the Rose Bowl, it's not easy.
They just walk.
Well, there's no way to drive. Trust me. That's one of my problems. That was one of my problems. I had to walk out of there after for miles and miles and miles. The Wi-Fi's not very good there either, but it's all good. I predicted before the game, Rob, 28-21, Michigan. We got 27-20 when it was all said and done. Now, it had to get to overtime to get there, but they don't ask, how. They just ask what the final score is. I'm not locked in on my final score yet of Monday's game. I sort of have a couple of scores in my head here that are bouncing around, but I do feel pretty confident about one of the signs here. What's your opinion on this football game? We're coming up against the break here, so what's your take on the number at 4.5 and the move from 55.5 to 56.5?
Yeah, real quick, if we're up against a break, Gabe, I will just say that I think the total move is correct. I think the early guys got in on a good number, but still availability with key numbers left. Side could be argued back and forth. We'll discuss it when we get back, but I think that maybe Washington plus points might be worth a small look, but I'd rather stick to total here.
All right, so when you look at this football game, both teams offensively put points up. I put the numbers on the board earlier, Rob. I've been talking about it. Washington score 37 points a game. Michigan scored 36 points a game. Washington give up 24 points a game. Michigan only give up 10 points a game. But we all know Michigan aren't holding the Washington Huskies to 10 points in this football game. So I brought it up earlier. Ohio State scored 24 on Michigan. Maryland scored 24 on them. That's it. Like, so those, you know what I mean? Those are the only two teams that got to 24. I brought up the stat earlier about Washington giving up 30 or more points 6 times this year. Michigan have only given up 30 or more points 2 times since 2021. So there's a lot of sort of counter arguments here, but I do believe that Michigan are going to have success moving the ball on Washington, and I know Washington is going to score on Michigan, so it's hard not to like the over.
It's hard not to like the over, Gabe, and I'm listening to what you're saying. You're probably on the same wavelength as me. I think the best bet of all is the Michigan team total over 30.5. I think they make it to 31. Hey, Washington could make it to 34. Washington could make it to 27. Who knows? I happen to think that that's around the final score, 31-27. So I'm staring at 58, which is why I said earlier I think we still have room with the total. It could exceed that. I'll say this about the matchup real quick, guys. To me, this whole thing comes down to whether or not Michigan can get to the quarterback. You've got a huge pass rush against the number 1 offensive line in the nation. They won that award. They've given up 11 sacks in 524 pass attempts this year. If Michigan doesn't get home, he's going to pass them silly, but that doesn't mean the other side won't come right back and score on them.
I have a counter argument for that as far as the Michigan defensive backs on the other side. This is SportsRage.
My best bet is Michael Penix Jr. over 309.5. Let's shop around. Let's get active and let's get the best of the number here. So
I believe if Michigan in this ball game can run the football, work off of play action, they can move the football, put up points. Does fall on McCarthy, but I like Michigan's chances in this ball game.
National championship is set. Washington against Michigan.
Brothers in arms tonight. This is it.
This is the most excited I think I've ever been for a day of work in my entire life.
Quarterback at quarterback. We're going to lay some juice. We're going to have some dog prices, and we're going to go right in the middle.
Because I don't know what they're doing. To me, they're in a complete rebuild, Kev.
Go run, run, run. That's where overbackers on this 51.5 shot.
So right now we saw a little bit more over money, but it's hovering right around.
The winner of this game will be the division
I
favorite.
don't care if they win because all we care about is the money, baby, the money.
Pro Football Today. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
We spent all offseason where the NFL said, hey, just so you guys know, running backs don't matter. If we then this year give the MVP to a running back, the irony. I am disappointed that they lost to FAU because secretly I don't really like this FAU team very much. I don't know. They're just not for me. And now they've completely legitimized the Owls.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
North Carolina, we've got Drew Sportsbooks operating for licenses, and you know, a lot of news always coming out of there. One of the fresh sports betting states.
Well, they're a little behind the ball there, so I don't know if they'll be at the starting line in North Carolina. But yeah, a really interesting mix of applicants this early on so far.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid. SportsGrid. Your 24/7 sports wagering network. Fantasy sports today.
They were saying there's no way he could not possibly do this. He won't hold out.
Pro League Soccer powered by Marca.
Scoring teams in the league. They have 80 goals so far.
College football today.
The Hawks team total in the first half is 0.5.
Pro football today.
Interesting props in this game, but I would be cautious laying this number here with the Houston Texans.
In-game live all access.
The NFC in terms of these wild cards and in terms of the playoff picture.
In-game live, prime time.
Rich, I don't know, man. This has just been one of those games that doesn't make a lick of sense.
In-game live, overtime.
You want to give you over 3-1 on a pretty good team. It's hard not to take some flyers.
Football full circle.
Well, NFL officials stink. They always will stink, and they'll always ruin the game. You know, that's just part of what it is.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Well, it's been a Washington Huskies love fest on this show all week. I'd say basically, I think Rick Saratella is the only guest we've had on the program, actually, that like Michigan. Our boy Rick Saratella said Michigan's going to roll them. He was the only one, and now Steve Merrill has joined the Michigan party as well. It sounds like Rob Vino's just more interested on the over of this football game. But I want to get to some NFL, too. But looking at some of these numbers, Rob, to me, if I'm Michigan, and I tell you what, Sharon Moore's done a brilliant job with the play calling, adjusting on a week-by-week basis. Hey, let's run the ball 32 times in a row against Penn State. No, let's attack this. Look at the 4th and 2 play against Alabama, how wide open Corum was. They've just been like a hot old lady at a slot machine. They're just tapping a button, and it keeps on coming up, man. Right? They're hot right now with their play calling. And I got to imagine their eyes are lighting up, Rob, when you see Washington gave up 267 yards a game in the air. It's ranked 123rd in college football. So we can talk all we want about their Joe Moore Award. Okay, fine. Let's talk about the other side of the football. They gave up 267 yards. How many D1 teams are there, Rob? 133?
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's exactly right.
All right, so there's 10 teams worse than them at pass defense. Okay, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
And in fact, I read an article today that Washington's defense, this would be the worst defense that ever won a college football playoff championship in the 9 years. They would have the worst statistical data of their defense. They also give up 137 yards a game on the ground, Rob. So Michigan could really sort of mix it up and pick what they want to do to attack, I think. So I think they're going to score. So that, to me, that's the whole thing. Everyone keeps talking all week about, can Michigan get a pass rush? What about Washington stopping Michigan and J.J. McCarthy and Blake Corum and Roman Wilson and everybody? Can they do it? I don't think they can.
No, I'm with you there, Gabe. Like I said, to me, the best play in this game is the Michigan team total over the number 30.5. They should get to 31. The one guarantee to me in this game is that Michigan will move the football. There's plenty of reasons to think that Washington can move it too, but there is the possibility that maybe they don't. I'd give Kalen DeBoer the benefit of the doubt in any coaching situation as far as offense is concerned. So that matchup against Jesse Minter will be pretty good. Ryan Grubb, the OC for Washington. These guys do a great job confusing defenses as well. But because Michigan is the more balanced team offensively, I think they'll move it more. You know, it's so reminiscent, Gabe. I got to tell you, it's so reminiscent of the TCU game last year. And Sonny Dykes had a worse defense. But Sonny Dykes was going to spread them out, and he was going to make them cover people, and they moved the football. Now, whether or not Jim Harbaugh can, they didn't have a lot of opportunity to face that style offense this year. We'll see if they've learned and if they can adjust this year. To me, again, I like over, and I think Michigan's team total over is the best route to take here. I do think Washington will score, though. I just don't see how you hold them. They get yardage in chunks.
Before we get to the NFL, any opinion on the South Dakota State-Montana game on Sunday afternoon?
Yeah, it's funny. I just started looking at that last night, and at first my opinion was Montana. The line looked too big. But you start going through some numbers, Gabe, and it's hard to play Montana. It's hard to play Montana. Wow. South Dakota State had 6 touchdown drives of 65 yards or more in that game. I know Albany's not that great, but still up and down the field. Villanova came close to SD State, right? But that game was played in lousy weather, and Villanova hung in because of the lousy weather. But you put this in Frisco, Texas on a dry field, dry track, and I know Bobby Hauck's a good coach, and I know quarterback play is good for Montana, but I've seen enough of these Yankee twins and Grinnell at quarterback the last 3 years to say that South Dakota State, maybe they're not overpriced here, 13.5. If Montana gets behind, they're in deep trouble. They only gained, I think we both had over that day, right? We were rooting for that overtime, and somehow we got that stupid game over, Montana, North Dakota State. Montana had barely over 200 yards offense in that game. They had one drive over 37 yards. It's crazy. So South Dakota State, the more I look at it, seems to be the way to go.
Are you going to touch a total at all? Because I am concerned that Montana's offense stalls in this game.
Yeah, it's very possible. At first, I didn't believe it. But then when I started going through these numbers, I'm like, you know what, Rob? They might get shut down.
35-10 or something like that. You know what I mean? It could just sort of, turn into one of those type of games. All right, NFL football. You're a big over better. So am I, but I'm looking at an under here with the Rams and the 49ers this week. You got Carson Wentz starting for the Rams, 49ers starting their backups, both teams going to the playoffs. Sean McVay and Shanahan historically have been two coaches that show nothing in the preseason. They could meet again. Nobody wants to get anybody hurt. There's really no reason why there's going to be points in this football game. And I understand at times, like, maybe the Giants-Eagle game is a different dynamic and there's points in that game. But to me, the Rams and the 49ers, this total is too high, Rob, at 41. I just don't see how they get to 42 points.
Yeah, it's great that you're pointing this out, Gabe, because I was asked today as a general blanket statement, Rob, these games that, where playoffs are berths are racked up and where backup quarterbacks are starting, do we just blindly play them under? And no, you have to treat them all individually. I think you're making a great example here. I would expect that the Rams and 49ers play calling on both sidelines is extremely conservative. And to your point about McVay shows nothing in preseason, that's what you have to correlate a lot of these games to this week is preseason games, right? I think in this instance, I'm in direct line thinking with you that this one would be more of a handoff, let's get out of here healthy type game than maybe some of the others that have the same type of non-implications are concerned. But I'd be with you there. I think under's the right way to go.
Cam, you got a game you want to ask Rob about?
Yeah, first of all, Gabe, I love that play on the under in the Rams game, so we'll talk more about that later. Rob, I got to ask you, I know you and Gabe play a lot more totals and overs than me, but I did play the Seattle-Arizona over 47.5. I expect a track meet in this one. Seattle's defense is porous. They're also going to be taking more shots. Arizona, conversely, will be able to, Seattle will score on them as well. I'm seeing like 31-27 type of game. 47.5 to me seems light. What do you think of that total? And I agree with you and Gabe on the under in the Rams total.
Yeah, and the Cardinals just threw 35 up on the Eagles last week, right?
Yep.
I mean, as the weeks go by with Kyler Murray, the offense has gotten better and better and better under Jonathan Gannon. I don't have notes that I had for that game in front of me, Kim. I don't think that the time that game is played that Seattle would know if they're eliminated yet from the playoffs. Maybe they will. If it's one of those games
they're
where they know they're going to be.
Same time.
Same time.
Yeah.
So they're going to play. Right? They're going to score. Arizona doesn't stop anybody. So that's one of those games where you're probably looking at points, divisional rivals. But like I say, since Murray's come back, that team's gotten progressive. And they run the football. Wow, did they run the football all of a sudden? And Seattle can't stop the run for their lives. So I would say over is a good play there.
Rob, the Buffalo game is an interesting one because this is one where they will know the dynamic of the game going in because it's the night game. It's the last game. So if the Steelers lose, the Bills are in the playoffs. If the Jags lose, the Bills are in the playoffs. But the Bills want to win a division. The Dolphins want to win a division. But the Dolphins also know they're in the playoffs no matter what. And they're also a pretty banged-up football team. So the last thing they need to do is to get even more beat up, lose the football game, and then play a playoff game next week. What do you think about this game, the total? Normally you would believe, man, Bills, Dolphins, this game turns into a track meet, but they're also playing for a division title as well. What's your opinion on this?
Yeah, my opinion is I don't think the Bills care what anybody does before 8:20 on Sunday night Eastern time. I think they only care about themselves getting that 2 seed, having a week off, and having a home game in Buffalo, at least for the first round that they're involved, right? So I don't think anything else matters to them. And when you look at the damage that's been done, Gabe, you hit on it to that Miami defense. I mean, if there's 4 cornerstones to that defense, it's Jalen Phillips, Bradley Chubb, Xavier Howard, and Jalen Ramsey. And guess what? 3 of them aren't playing, and maybe a couple of linebackers are banged up as well. I think Buffalo team total
Why
over 25
did the number
and
come
a half.
down? Why did it come down to 2.5 when
2.5.
Miami are as beat up as they are?
You know what?
Strange.
And I went right to the weather report for Miami on Sunday. It's going to rain, but lucky that game was flexed to 8:20 because that rain apparently clears out of there by 4 p.m. Eastern time. So I think that this game probably goes back up. Maybe there was a little bit of doubt in the weather when this game first dropped yesterday, but I think it'll probably go back up. Buffalo team total over 25.5 has to be like legalized stealing in this game. If they can't get to 27, and they've done so 4 of the last 6 games against this defense, I'd be very, very surprised. Again, weather does change constantly in Florida. We know rain here, rain there. It could rain anytime. But from what I'm seeing, it's not going to rain at game time. And again, I don't think Buffalo cares. what anybody else does in front of them. I think the 2 seed is what they want. The week off helps Buffalo tremendously if they can get it. And the home field, you want a home playoff game in Buffalo.
Yeah.
Oh, this is it's a massive game. And one thing, the Buffalo Bills, they've owned the Dolphins 9-1 straight up in the last 10 games. Another total, I talked about the Rams game, the Buccaneers and the Panthers, Rob. There's 2 ways to sort of, this is one of those games where it wouldn't surprise me if it's like, oh my God, it's 30-30. And like there's a, you know what I mean? It turns into one of these just crazy, stupid games, sort of like the Packer-Panther game did.
Yeah.
And also, it wouldn't surprise me if it was like 3-0 at the half. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is a weird one. My gut, we got 30 seconds. What do you think about that total?
I think a lot depends on Mayfield, right? Is he good enough to go? Is he not good enough to go? If he's not good enough to go, then the total has to be played under, I would think. Tampa Bay's playing for a division, right? A division crown in this game. So the defense probably shows up, and Carolina can't do much about that. So my initial look would probably be more under than over in that game.
Rob Vino, enjoy the games, Rob. Happy New Year. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, guys. Take care.
My best bet is Michael Penix Jr. over 309.5. Let's shop around. Let's get active and let's get the best of the number here. So
I believe if Michigan in this ball game can run the football, work off of play action, they can move the football, put up points. Does fall on McCarthy, but I like Michigan's chances in this ball game.
National championship is set. Washington against Michigan.
Brothers in arms tonight. This is it.
This is the most excited I think I've ever been for a day of work in my entire life.
Quarterback at quarterback. We're going to lay some juice. We're going to have some dog prices, and we're going to go right in the middle.
Because I don't know what they're doing. To me, they're in a complete rebuild, Kev.
Go run, run, run. That's where overbackers on this 51.5 shot.
So right now, we saw a little bit more over money, but it's hovering right around.
The winner of this game will be the division
I
favorite.
don't care if they win, because all we care about is the money, baby, the money.
Pro Football Today. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
We spent all offseason where the NFL said, hey, just so you guys know, running backs don't matter. If we then this year give the MVP to a running back, the irony. I am disappointed that they lost to FAU because secretly I don't really like this FAU team very much. I don't know. They're just not for me. And now they've completely legitimized the Owls.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
North Carolina, we've got new sports books operating for licenses, and a lot of news always coming out of there. One of the fresh sports betting states.
Well, they're a little behind the ball there, so I don't know if they'll be at the starting line in North Carolina. But yeah, a really interesting mix of applicants this early on so far.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid. SportsGrid. Your 24/7 sports wagering network. Fantasy sports today.
They were saying there's no way he could not possibly do this. He won't hold out.
Pro League Soccer powered by Marca.
Scoring teams in the league. They have 80 goals so far.
College football today.
the Hawks team total in the first half is 0.5.
Pro Football Today.
Interesting props in this game, but I would be cautious laying this number here with the Houston Texans.
In-game live all access.
The NFC in terms of these wild cards and in terms of the playoff.
In-game live, prime time.
Rich, I don't know, man. This has just been one of those games that doesn't make a lick of sense.
In-game live, overtime.
You want to give you over 3-1 on a pretty good team. It's hard not to take some flyers.
Football full circle.
Well, NFL officials stink. They always will stink, and they'll always ruin the game. You know, that's just part of what it is.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
This is Sports Rage. I am Morency. Let's do this thing. So I was talking about this earlier. If you're just joining us, Blake Corum, Michigan Wolverine running back. The Michigan Wolverines are 31-0 when he scores a touchdown. And I think the chances are pretty high he's going to score a touchdown in this football game, which makes me feel pretty good about the math here. And they're going to improve to 32-0, but he is minus 400. These college player props, the touchdown score props are insane. But actually, you know what? It's come down. It's now minus 350. So it's minus 350 for Blake Corum. But everybody else in this game, their touchdown props are all very good. And listen, not everybody can score, but you got to ask yourself, all right, is Blake Corum going to score? If Blake Corum doesn't score, Michigan are probably in trouble. He scored in 25 of their last 26 football games. So he's probably going to score. Dylan Johnson, Washington Husky running back. I'll tell you what, he's the one I'd be a little bit concerned about. He's not 100%. And secondly, Michigan are freaking hard to run on. Washington, they're going to throw touchdown passes in this game. Dylan Johnson, for the record, he's minus 150. I'm surprised about Roman Dunze's number here at plus 100, considering how good he is and how unstoppable he is. Plus 100 to get into the end zone for Roman Dunze is not a bad play. Donovan Edwards, Michigan. He doesn't touch the ball ever. Now, I was reading in the Detroit Free Press or somewhere, and we'll bring Julio in a second here. I was reading in the Detroit Free Press or something about, they were saying they think that this is it, that Edwards is going to be an X factor in this game. Remember last year he went off for like 230 yards against Ohio State or whatever. So he's really good. He hasn't really gotten into a groove this year. He's not as big as part of the offense, but I'm expecting Michigan to do something a little off. I just don't like the odds at plus 120. Roman Wilson plus 120 is a good look for Michigan. But I'll tell you what, when you go down the list here, Loveland, Michigan's tight end, is plus 160. I wouldn't be surprised if he got to the end zone. But Tyler Morris is a player. Tyler Morris is actually, he scored a touchdown in the last game. He's actually J.J. McCarthy's high school teammate from Nazareth High School in Illinois, where Big Card Julio grew up. Now he's in Denver. What's going on, Julio? I saw you retweet my the Chicago media is pulling for J.J. McCarthy, all the local high school kids and stuff. He's a big hero to them, as he should be. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Hail to the victors, Gabe and Cam. Hope you guys don't knock heads, as you guys are both Michigan and UW fans. But Chicago, huge.
Cam's a Washington
Money
State
talk.
fan.
Yeah. Cougar. I'm a Cougar this week, not a Husky. Yeah.
But Chicago's a huge base for Michigan alums, so not a surprise to see a kid from the suburbs do well. It's going to be a good game. Honestly, guys, as a Midwesterner, it's still weird that next year and years to come, Michigan and Washington are going to be conference rivals. But we'll deal with that next year. We'll worry about a great national title game on Monday.
Well, in other words, the national champion is going to be in the Big Ten next year, one way or the other. But as you said, a Midwesterner, and you can be real. I'm not going to. I won't get upset if you tell me if you hate Michigan. But I saw. Listen, USA Today had a story today. I retweeted it. It said the national championship game is a matchup of good versus evil. I'm like, damn, Michigan are under the evil category right now. But Michigan football is sort of like Duke basketball. A lot of people hate Harbaugh. A lot of people want to see Michigan fail. But I saw like a national poll and like map and stuff like that. And basically everybody in the country really is polling for Michigan except for two states, Washington and Ohio. Because Michigan, no, I'm dead serious. Like it was the map. It was like Ohio is hanging on strong to this. But all the Alabama fans even told me after, we hope you win the championship. You're a hell of a team, and, you beat us, so we'd rather you win, right? Like, so do you hate Michigan, Julio? Would you prefer to see them, fail, or do you want to see them get it done?
No, I want to see Michigan get it done. I'm a Harbaugh guy. I want to see a Midwestern school win a national title again. I think where people in Big Ten country hate Michigan are the alums and the student body, not per se the team, because Michigan football has been great for decades, right? I just think it's some of the snobs in Ann Arbor, sort of the the big nosers.
The khaki
I'm not
and
talking
loafer
about
crowd? Yeah, that's who you're
I'll
talking
tell you
about.
what. I'll tell you what.
The Mercedes crowd.
Seattle isn't like.
No, they're
Seattle,
snobs
right.
Yeah, it's not Fast Times at Ridgemont High at Seattle
Good call,
University.
Gabe.
Seattle,
Seattle's
Washington.
not
They're
like
pretty stuck up
Stanka.
too. Trust me.
Stanka
Yeah,
County,
of course,
it's like
they're snobby as
Starbucks.
hell, bro.
Yeah, exactly. They're West Coast
They
snobs.
got both.
Why do you think I told
tailgating
Cam last
parties.
night? Why do you think they got accepted into the Big Ten? Because they're the West Coast snobs.
Exactly.
Like, they're like,
yeah. You're not going to let the
good.
Beavers or Cougars in there.
Come
Like,
on in,
those
yeah.
hooligans? Never.
I saw basically
That's
tonight
great.
on the Seattle News, they had like a Husky fan group and stuff. I almost felt bad. I liked the lady. She was nice.
Yeah.
So it's like this lady, she decorated all the street ornaments like with like Husky stuff.
Cool.
I guess she does it for Christmas and everything like that. But the gist of it was like it was very upscale. The neighborhood that likes the Seattle, in Seattle, that likes the Washington Huskies. I talked about it off the top of the program. The Seattle Times did a story about how they don't care nearly as much as Michigan. Like the game doesn't mean nearly as much to us as it does to them. I was surprised instead of hyping it up, Julio, they took an angle of and they did a poll about how no one cared. They're like 51% of people in Seattle don't care about the championship game. Only 10% of people in Seattle will watch the championship game. That was the thing. 10% of people are going to watch.
Wow.
So, whatever. Like I said, it's going to be like a Michigan home game. They're going to take the freaking building over. What's your pick for the game, Julio?
I'm going Michigan. I think Michigan are able to keep. It's going to be a closer game than most people expect, but I think Michigan in the end with that type of offense will be able to kill the clock in the second half and pull away with a victory. I'm willing to take under 56.5. I mean, I'd even do like the same game parlay as all the cool kids do. Michigan money line under 56.5.
Interesting. Under, huh? I think it's going
I'm
to
with
creep
Julio.
over.
I think it's going to be right there, Morency. My score I keep coming back to is 31-20 or 34-20 Michigan. I can't get those scores out of my head. Just under. That's what I'm thinking.
Washington,
I need to
I'll
write
tell you
those
what.
numbers down, Cam.
Well, one thing about Washington, people we talk about their offense, and as I stated earlier, guys, Michigan haven't given up more than 24 points all year. And people are like, well, Washington. There are a lot of instances. All right, so they scored 34 against the Ducks, 34-31. They hung 37 on Texas, but they scored 24 against Washington State in the last game of the year.
Mm-hmm.
They scored 22 against Oregon State the week before that.
Correct.
They got held to 15 against Arizona State on October the 21st. There were a lot of instances. There are a couple of instances here where their offense wasn't just automatic, Julio. So I can understand sort of that's the whole thing. Michigan haven't given up more than 24 points all year. So I guess that's the question. Are Washington going to score more or less than 24 points in this game? I sort of think they're going to score 24 points in this game. Like, that's the number I keep coming back to. And I've got Michigan scoring like 38, 41 in the 38 range. So I'm sorry, Julio. I'm on the over.
Yeah, it's okay.
It's okay.
Same side here. Yeah.
As long as Michigan wins, we'll be fine, Gabe.
Yeah, well, that is the bottom line. All right. So what about the Bears and the Packers? What's your pick for that game?
This is a massive game. I almost equate this game to the Houston Texans last season when they won the final game of the season. Everyone focusing on them. They're supposed to lose that game to get the number one overall pick. Them winning sort of set them up for the successful season they had this year. I feel the same with the Bears. There's been a lot of odd talk about the Bears with the number one pick needing to draft Caleb Williams. And it seems like while in public, yes, the players are supposed to back your quarterback, but there's no sources are telling the Chicago Tribune, the Chicago Sun-Times that Justin Fields is X, he's Y, he's a cancer to the locker room. No, everyone's galvanizing towards him. The Bears are doing well. I'm going over in this game, but I think the Bears win in the money line. I wouldn't be surprised if the Bears win outright. The Montez Sweat trade has worked out quite well for them. They've got him re-signed for next season and several years to come. It just feels like the trajectory is moving right for the Bears, and I think there's no more Lambeau mystique anymore. I think the Bears are able to go up there and get the win.
They don't do that very often.
No, they don't. No,
we were partying on school roofs with the janitor the last time in high school, the last time the Bears won. But I'm on them too, Julio. I'm the Bears. I'm with you this week, buddy. Let's roll.
Listen, Justin Fields has been awesome. You know what? And there has been a buzz that they're going to keep him. Now, you never know, right? But I sort of feel like it's starting to snowball a little bit about trading the pick, right? They're going to trade that first pick. They're going to get a ton for it as well because Caleb Williams is going to be highly in demand, and they'll be able to stockpile talent. But with all that being stated, I think you guys are underestimating Jordan Love. And the year, like Justin Fields had a great year. I'll give him credit. He's really come on. All right, a great year, great last little run here. But Justin Fields, man, this guy, we went over his stats earlier in the week, Julio. This guy's top 10, top 3. He's thrown for 30 touchdowns.
Love's on fire.
He's just been, winning football games for them. Has an opportunity to get him into the playoffs. And by the way, the Green Bay Packers have beaten them 9 of the last 10 times that they played.
Yes, they have.
And they've covered 9 of the last 10 times that they played. They've also covered. They beat them earlier this year, 38-20. They beat them last year, 38-20, 28-19, 27-10, 45-30, 24-14, 35-16, 40. They haven't even come within single digits.
Just to play devil's advocate, Morency, they beat them week 1, and the Bears were horrible. They're a totally different team now to then. They're a million times better. Would you not say the Bears are significantly better?
No, the Packers are the Bears are better, kind of better than they were, but that's insane though. You have to go all the way back to December 15th, 2019, the last time that they didn't lose by double digits to the Packers.
Yeah. Time for a change.
Yeah, enough is enough. It's like the late great Owen Hart, the boy from Calgary. Enough is enough, and it's time for a change.
I'm not a Nugget. That's what you're saying? They're not Nuggets?
We're not Nuggets. No Bears.
That's right.
That was Owen Hart's line. I'm not a Nugget.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to have to disagree. I'm taking the Green Bay Packers in that football game. All right, so what else do you have for us, Julio? You got about 30 seconds here before the break in the NFL.
The NFL, let's go the Baltimore Ravens to win on the money line. I also like the Indianapolis Colts to get it done. And how about a 10-point teaser with the Patriots under, Broncos under, and the Lions over?
Wow.
So you pick the worst games and the worst teams just for fun of it. The Patriots.
What a mixed bag. I like it.
As soon as I heard you say the Patriots, you lost.
That is mine.
We'll get Julio's college basketball bets on the other side.
Yes.
My best bet is Michael Penix Jr. over 309.5.
Let's shop around. Let's get active and let's get the best of the number here, Joe.
I believe if Michigan in this ball game can run the football, work off of play action, they can move the football, put up points. Does fall on McCarthy, but I like Michigan's chances in this ball game.
National championship set. Washington against Michigan.
Brothers in arms tonight. This is it.
This is the most excited I think I've ever been for a day of work in my entire life.
Quarterback at quarterback. We're going to lay some juice. We're going to have some dog prices, and we're going to go right in the middle.
Because I don't know what they're doing. To me, they're in a complete rebuild, Kev.
Go run. That's where overbackers on this 51.5 shot.
Right now, he's a little bit more over money, but it's hovering right around.
The winner of this game will be the division
I
favorite.
don't care if they win because all we care about is the money, baby, the money.
Pro Football Today. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
We spent all offseason where the NFL said, hey, just so you guys know, running backs don't matter. If we then this year give the MVP to a running back, the irony. I am disappointed that they lost to FAU because secretly I don't really like this FAU team very much. I don't know. They're just not for me. And now they've completely legitimized the Owls.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
North Carolina, we've got new sports books operating for licenses, and a lot of news always coming out of there. One of the fresh sports betting states.
Well, they're a little behind the ball there, so I don't know if they'll be at the starting line in North Carolina. But yeah, a really interesting mix of applicants this early on so far.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid. SportsGrid. Your 24/7 sports wagering network. Fantasy sports today.
They were saying there's no way he could not possibly do this. He won't hold out.
Pro League Soccer powered by Marca.
Scoring teams in the league. They have 80 goals so far.
College football today.
The Hawks team total in the first half is 0.5.
Pro football today.
Interesting props in this game, but I would be cautious laying this number here with the Houston Texans.
In-game live all access.
The NFC in terms of these wild cards and in terms of the playoff picture.
In-game live, prime time.
Rich, I don't know, man. This has just been one of those games that doesn't make a lick of sense.
In-game live, overtime.
I want to give you over 3-1 on a pretty good team. It's hard not to take some flyers.
Football full circle.
Well, NFL officials stink. They always will stink, and they'll always ruin the game. Yeah, that's just part of what it is.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
This is SportsRage. I am Morency. All right, Julio, so you gave us a couple NFL picks, but you are a college basketball guy at heart. You were the play-by-play voice for Chicago State. They got good after you left. I hate to say it. They win games and stuff. Just saying.
It's so true. It's so true. Hey, back-to-back covers this week. Oklahoma State and Kansas State.
That's what I'm saying. Beating Northwestern, covering numbers. You left the transfer portal, Julio, to where it's not only
way too early.
Yeah.
Should have stayed.
But what about college? What about college basketball? I got to start to get into the groove on Saturday afternoons of college basketball. We will
me too.
Whatever as the season goes on. But what are you doing tomorrow? Have you taken a look at the card tomorrow, or do you have some soccer for us?
Nothing on the college basketball yet. I am sort of looking at New Mexico to bounce back against Wyoming. Wyoming played really well. So that's only on my radar right now. But guys, Professional Women's Hockey League, the PWHL, 4-0 to the under 5.5 goals, and the prices have not adjusted yet. Tonight I got under 5.5 at even money, so I'm playing it until it gets to maybe minus 150 because I think it's more of a defensive style league. Minnesota versus Montreal play tomorrow, so under 5.5 goals. I'm hoping we get the same with the NWSL, the Women's Soccer League. It had 17 under 2.5 games in a row, and the market never adjusted. So we made good money in that league a few years back. Speaking of soccer, the FA Cup is tomorrow. We're going to go Chelsea against Preston. Chelsea with a clean sheet, minus 125, and Real Madrid with a clean sheet. And then lastly, guys, we've got the FCS championship game. Who's the marketing wizard to decide to put this game at 2:00 in the afternoon on a Sunday? Either way, give me over Montana and South Dakota State.
Seems like a strange time to play it. I'm not really sure why they don't do it tomorrow.
That's what I'm saying. I don't understand.
It's always on Sunday, though. That's their thing.